Welcome into the college show powered by Dynasty Nerds. I am your host, ashamed Cleveland Browns fan. To my left, I think it depends on how we put it on the screen, but over here we've got why don't you reveal your identity, Mr. Andrew Mott?
Yeah, I'm Kirk O'Chains. So
Love
I
it.
know
Love it.
you like that. That's what I know you like right now. But yeah, Kirk O'Chains right now. Definitely excited to talk about this on the Halloween episode. Trick or treat. Lots of good stuff, man.
Love it. Love it. And then we've got Jagger May. Jagger May, reveal your identity, man.
I am a stoner on the run for the government. I am Leonardo DiCaprio in one battle after another, also known as Bob Ferguson. So I do look homeless. That is intentional.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I have not seen it yet, but I've heard it's a fantastic movie. Is it?
I love it. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. So
Nice.
I've made it
Nice.
my entire personality, obviously. So
I love it. Fantastic job. And today, if you could not tell, we are celebrating Trick or Treat. This is our Halloween episode. And the guys were like, hey, why are we not going to dress up? And I was like, all right, if we're going to do it, let's lean into it all the way. So we have 3 tricks for you guys that we were hoping were going to be better, or we had different expectations for. We saw things going a little bit differently, but we done got tricked. And then we have some treats. Some guys were like, hey, that's a surprise. That's pretty nice. I'm glad this worked out. So we have the trick or treat episode here. And I will unfortunately reveal myself. It's me, Garrett Price. I am the ashamed Cleveland Browns fan. It is super hard to talk with that on the entire time. I didn't even want to do the mouth hole because traditionally you don't. And it kind of looks creepier with it somehow. But yeah, I talk on the show, so I kind of had to. I did. I saw those in Miami. They're staples in at MetLife. They're staples there as well. The Aints. I think I heard them say that's where that originated, was actually in like the 60s and 70s with the Saints. So
damn. Yeah. I'm surprised we didn't get that Mike McCarthy news this morning, him getting Goodfelled in the office.
By the time we're done, it could happen, honestly.
Mike McCarthy?
Mike McDaniel, sorry.
Yeah, I was like, he's not the coach, brother.
Hey,
he might too, though. Who knows?
There are plenty of mediocre Mikes that I confuse.
Look, would Mike McCarthy be an upgrade? Would it be?
No, I don't think so at all.
I don't think so. I think McDaniels is a really good offensive mind, and he needs to live there.
Yeah.
I don't think he needs to be a head coach.
Cannot rally the troops to save his life, though.
No,
not a leader of men, as they say.
Nope. Nope. You pair him with a Mike Vrabel, somebody like that, you're good to go.
Hey, Patriots. Actually, I like Josh McDaniel.
So he's doing great with Drake May. Don't touch anything right now. Everything's working great.
Yeah.
Other than figure out Travion Henderson, please. All right. Let's actually get into our college stuff, though. We've got 3 guys to talk about that were tricks, 3 guys that were treats. And Jagger, why don't we start with you today? Who's the guy so far this season that you're like, man, you done tricked me. I thought you were going to be better, or the community thought you were going to be better, and you just kind of let us down.
Drew Allar every week just keeps tumbling down draft boards, man. It is like at the beginning of the season, I had hope. Maybe Penn State can be for real. Maybe James Franklin isn't James Franklin. You know, maybe we'll take the Scooby-Doo mask off of him, and he's a different coach. Turns out when you take the Scooby-Doo mask off, it's still James Franklin. And I don't know if he's broken Drew Allar or if that failure was already there, but he ain't it, man. And now I'm at the point of like, are we even drafting Drew Allar come rookie time? Where are we going to draft him? I know that a lot of that depends on what team he goes to and what draft capital, but like at best, he's getting that Tyler Shuck treatment at best. And Tyler Shuck shouldn't even have gotten that treatment. So,
yeah, he is a really interesting one because he has a lot of the physical tools and traits. And we'll talk about another guy that has a lot of physical tools and traits as well. But it just hasn't all come together. It just hasn't all come together. And especially at a position like quarterback, where so much of it rides between the years. So much of it rides on confidence. So much of it rides on like those intangible things that you can't list on the NFL Combine. You can't figure it out in just, solely looking at individual metrics. He just does not seem to have it. Now, we don't know that for certain. We'll find out, I guess, if and when he gets drafted. But like right now, if my franchise drafts him anywhere before Shedeur Sanders range, like I'm worried. Like that's not what I'm looking for my franchise to do if I'm an NFL team. Andrew, what do you think? What do you think about Allar?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I thought just coming into the season, kind of like Jagger said, that's the reason why he is a trick for us right now, is because you thought there was going to be these flashes. I mean, if you threw on the tape for Drew Allar last year, you saw these traits that he had: a big arm. He has the size, the prototypical size that you want to see out of a quarterback. And it's like every once in a while you see these throws and you're like, ooh, that could be something if he can hone in and develop and kind of get some of the fundamentals right. And the thing is, it just hasn't happened at all. I mean, it really, from last season to this season, I haven't seen any development. And obviously now you have the injury too that you have to throw into it with Drew Allar, where is there a chance? I mean, I know Jared brought it up. Could he potentially do the injury redshirt? Like, could he do that and come back for another year to try and improve the draft stock? I don't know, man. It's just definitely hasn't been the year that you wanted out of Drew Allar. Was a player that I think coming into the year, a lot of us thought maybe could be in the buzz for first round NFL draft capital type of quarterback. And now we're talking about, I mean, you said Shedeur Sanders. That's day 3. That's where we're at with Drew Allar.
Yeah. I thought if he would have came out last season, and this isn't just me, a lot of buzz was like, man, he should come out. He should come out. To me, he was around the Jackson Dart range where, man, if someone will take him, back half of the first round, there could be something there. And he really screwed himself trying to get that. Was he fighting for the 101? I'm assuming he was. So,
yeah,
the NIL money.
Yeah,
something. So definitely a disappointment so far this season. Andrew, who's your guy that was a trick for you on this Halloween episode?
Yeah, I'm kind of glad we have this episode, and it's funny that the name that I'm going to bring up, it's Garrett Nussmeier for the LSU Tigers. We had a short drop the other day on all of socials, and this is a short that was clipped from over a month ago when we were talking about Garrett Nussmeier, and all the comments are like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, this guy blah, 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 blah. Brother, that was before Garrett Nussmeier went out and gave us a horrible season. Obviously, Brian Kelly, getting fired from LSU as well. Like, this has not been the year that you wanted out of Garrett Nussmeier. 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions right now. It feels like this was a player who, when we originally had that take back whenever we did that, was he has a safe floor. He's a player that feels like a safe player. And there wasn't really anything about Garrett Nussmeier that I felt like was like, he has these elite traits, but he's a very solid guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You kind of saw a little bit of a regression, I feel like, from him this year. And maybe that is just the Brian Kelly offense that kind of regressed this year, or whatever it may be. You could point to 100 different things. But there's no physical or there's no elite traits that have helped elevate his draft stock or keep it afloat in the midst of a bad season here from LSU. So he's a player who's definitely kind of tricked everybody. I don't really hear his name as much around these top quarterbacks in the class anymore. I think people are still throwing his name in there by default, but it's the Fernando Mendozas, it's the Dante Moores, it's Ty Simpson now. Like, these are the names you're hearing at the top of it. It is no longer Garrett Nussmeier, who was the first name that usually rolled off the tongue.
Yeah, unfortunately, his stock has just absolutely tanked in the second half of the season. And I think originally when you looked at it, they beat, top 5 ranked Clemson to start the year. And you're like, okay, that's a good sign. We like seeing that. Well, we see where Clemson's at now. Clemson is not a team that helped your strength of schedule at all. And now that they've played 3 real ranked teams, they've lost all 3 of those games. And he never, I've talked about it with other players before, but he never put on the cape, and that's what you want to see out of a guy that's potentially a first-round quarterback. You want to see them put on the cape every once in a while. You want to see them be the reason that their team wins a game, comes from behind, things like that. And he hasn't done that. And I think you're absolutely right, Andrew. Without, some elite physical traits, elite size, elite arm, elite, whatever, like without those kinds of things, what do you have left? an undersized guy that looks like more of a game manager that could be a solid, third round pick, but not somebody that you're willing to base your franchise around. And so definitely a faller there. Jagger, what do you think?
I love what you said about he needs to put on the cape, because I would push back that he does try to put on the cape. The issue is that he doesn't have a utility belt, like you're saying. His big problem now is he is forced to play a lot of hero ball, because he's kind of I don't want to slight any of the receivers there, but is the quarterback and is the big man on offense. And when you don't have a Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., and granted he didn't have those players, but he doesn't even have a Mason Taylor right now to throw to. It really shows, where I think that if you put Dante Moore on this offense or Fernando Mendoza, those guys have that elite traits that when they do put on the cape, some stuff happens. Fernando Mendoza's got that big arm where he can make something happen down the field. Dante Moore has athleticism and pinpoint accuracy all over the field. Garrett Nussmeier has to be perfect. And right now, my comp for him is Bryce Young, and I mean that negatively. Actually, I really do mean that negatively. I don't mean college Bryce Young.
I hear you, because mine, the guy I kept thinking of was, and maybe it's because we just watched him last night, but Tua, thinking of like a Tua. That kind of guy.
These undersized guys that
not elite athleticism or anything to make up for. Yep. Unfortunate.
To kind of jump to his defense just a tiny bit here, he hasn't played horrible. You haven't watched Garrett Nussmeier and said wow, he has regressed. He's playing terrible football. He's been fine, but I think that's the problem, is we're expecting him going into the year to be this guy who could be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, and you have not played like that by any means so far this season. And actually, a lot of these quarterbacks that we didn't expect, which kind of is what happens sometimes with college football, obviously, but some of these guys we didn't expect have come in and outplayed you significantly. And you're not even a guy that we're even talking about in a Heisman race or anything like that, whereas you were supposed to be 101, Heisman Trophy winner, things like that. That's what we were looking at Garrett Nussmeier to be. And that's why, to me, he's a trick right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very unfortunate. We've seen that stock fall pretty far, and we're seeing another stock fall from a guy that is actually on the same team as somebody else we were talking about. So I'm going to stick with Penn State, and we're going to go to Nick Singleton, another guy where the physical attributes seem great. 6 foot, 224. He's the number 1 overall running back in this class. A lot of things you would typically really like. But look at what we have this season. 274 yards. That's 3.6 yards a clip. And when you're only putting up 7 carries for 20 yards against Northwestern, you're going against Nevada and you're only putting up 19 yards on 8 carries, things like that. You're just this was a player that originally we were talking about, okay, could he be the number 1 running back in the class? And I still think there's a chance that he is a day 2 guy, just because of those physical attributes that everybody's talking about, and the lack of depth in this class, the lack of top end talent. There's still a chance that somebody will look at this guy in the 3rd round and say, I can make something of this. But this was always what I was worried about. And I remember talking about it early on in the season when we were talking running backs. Is he a good running back, or is he a good athlete? And I think that's what we're starting to see is he's just a good athlete. He's not a good running back. And that's my biggest concern here with Nicholas Singleton. So how far has he fallen for you, Jagger?
Not very far, because I was one of the lowest in here on him. For the exact reasons that you said, is that man, I get it. He's athletic. That's why I get where Andrew was at, where you look at guys like Ollie Gordon and Braylon Allen who weren't particularly good. I'd actually say Ollie Gordon was a much more polished prospect than Nick Singleton at this point. But even I would say Braylon Allen, because it's the polish that's the issue, where I could see the size and the athleticism if someone can mold that. But to me, it's very indicative of James Franklin, man. This isn't just a running back thing. I looked at it on the defensive side of the ball where, man, or even tight ends, I'm they've got the craziest athletes, but none of them know how to play their position. And that is just an indictment top to bottom of what James Franklin brought to that program, or rather he didn't bring, which is just polish. And I just don't think he's a great running back, but he can be. That's me defending him. I think he can be. Just we might have to wait longer than a lot of us want. And will the NFL wait? That's another issue.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing too, is like he came back to school after could have went out last year. And I know it was a stronger running back class last year. He probably wasn't going to be a top 3 to 5 running. Maybe he would have snuck into the top 5, but definitely wasn't going to be a top 3 guy off the board based off of last season. And I just feel like the problem is you go back to kind of improve that draft stock. You come out in 2026, which was perceived as a little bit of a weaker running back class. Hopefully you can come off the board as RB2, behind Jeremiah Love. And it just hasn't happened for Singleton. It's kind of a lost season overall. And it's like you're talking about development here, Jag, and it's like, when is the development going to happen? Because it's not happening right now at Penn State, and that means that a team has to draft you, bring you into the room, you have to develop there, and then eventually get a shot. But we know with those rookie running backs, sometimes it's like you got to come in and do 100%. It almost immediately 100%. Within year 1 or 2, and if you don't, you're just a career backup, kind of journeyman type of running back that just comes in and fills voids for an offense every once in a while. Kind of like a Michael Carter. We've seen Michael Carter hit practice squad. I literally was going to say Michael Carter. Back. Yeah, like that's what we've seen with guys like that. So like, is that kind of the route, the trajectory that we're seeing Singleton go on? Is he a Michael Carter where you could be picked up by an NFL team and then maybe get a shot at it, but if you don't look good right away, it's just rest of the career is just on and off of practice squads and filling in for injuries.
And I'd argue Michael Carter was polished and he produced year 1. He's just small and unathletic. So like, if anything, Nick Singleton is opposite, but same. He's big and athletic, but has zero polished. So like he could be in the same bucket. And it's like you said, I'd want to comp him to Chase Brown. I don't think Chase Brown is a good running back. He does have some athleticism, but he sat for the Bengals and he got better. So Nick Singleton needs that situation.
The guy that kind of, and I need to dig deeper into Singleton's tape because maybe I'm being slightly too harsh. But he reminds me of like an Izzy Abanikanda, where like you see the size, you see the speed, and that's going to get teams going. Like that's going to get teams excited. And come like combine time, we're going to be hearing like people are going to be posting on videos like this. Like, you guys are way too low. My guy just ran a 4.39 at 227 pounds. Like, you guys are too low. And then he gets the actual opportunity on the field. And it's just, you'll rip off one here and there, and it's going to be exciting. But outside of that, can you down in, down out be the kind of running back you need to be? I don't know. I hope a team gets him and develops him. I really do, because this is not a like anti-Nick take or anything like that. It's just I don't know that he has the all-around game that he needs to be successful at the next level.
Well, and let's be honest, it would be better for us if he was good. So none of us are rooting that he's not going to be a good player. We want him to be a good player because
we need more running backs
for us in fantasy. Yeah, we need more.
Running backs sucks right now. It's not good. And I would like for somebody to be good immediately.
Yeah, somebody not named Jeremiah Love, because I'm very confident he's going to be pretty solid.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. All right, well, we got all of the negative stuff out of the way. All the tricks are out of the way. Now let's get to our treats. The guys that were like, ooh, look at that. That's nice. And so, Jagger, we're going to start with you. Who do you have as your treat? The guy that's been, maybe a little bit of a pleasant surprise.
Chris Brazzell II. The wide receivers are doing what the running backs aren't, where I feel like we keep having guys rise up and fill up the big board to where there's talent there. And I keep trying to compare it to the Zay Flowers class. We have size in this one, so it's not like that. There's some big boys. And Chris Brazzell is one of these guys where I think that he has back end day one talent if another team can want that, but definitely day two. And if the depth keeps piling up in this class, he's someone who I'm going to target because he's just going to fall because of all the guys that are moving ahead of them, whether it be defensive or other wide receivers. So it's been a pleasant surprise that we're getting more and more size, because I feel like we've just had wee boys a long time. Like Malik Neighbors And it's Marvin Harrison Jr. is the only true X, but Malik Neighbors is like the stereotypical guy that we look at now. And I'm not hating or shaming. Malik Neighbors is amazing, but having some real true size speed combo guys is nice.
Sure.
You know, like give the T Higgins type some love, even though I wouldn't compare them as exactly.
No, I get your vibe. No, he's been very, very good. A guy that, you know, we have a lot of transfers now, so you know, another one of those transfer players that got to the right place at the right time and the right scheme, and finally got to showcase his ability and his talent. And sometimes that's what it takes, you know, guys. And it would be interesting to, you know, see in a parallel universe, like had the transfer portal been this way 30 years ago, how many names would be in the NFL that aren't, you know, because they finally got the opportunity to shine on the right team with the right quarterback and things like that. So he's definitely one of those guys that took that opportunity and did a lot with it. And so I do think that there is an outside chance that we see round one, but I think he's a lock for day 2 and probably even second round day 2. I think he's going to be a very solid pick right in there. Andrew, any other thoughts?
That Jaden Higgins range. That Jaden Higgins range is where I see him at.
Yeah, I mean, that range makes a ton of sense for him. I think he's definitely a player where, for me right now in the class, it does feel like I have about 3 or 4 wide receivers that I'm like, man, I think I really like these guys at this point in time. These players feel like the ones that I'm going to be targeting first in Dynasty. But when you get right outside of that range, Chris Brazzell is going to be one of the first guys that comes up to mind, I think, for most people, or maybe even a couple other names could be thrown in there as well. But he's definitely on that next brink. I think the Jaden Higgins range, not the player, but the range of what you're looking at as far as NFL draft capital and even potentially like Dynasty rookie draft capital that you're using on him, an early second, maybe, you know, mid if your league is sleeping on him a little bit. But I think that's definitely the range we're looking at with Brazzell today. Maybe that'll change over the combine and some of these other things, but I definitely agree with you. He's definitely been one of the more impressive wide receivers so far.
In a vacuum, I think he's a better prospect than Jaden Higgins was, but I was one of the lowest people on Higgins.
I can see that. All right, Andrew, who's your guy that surprised you?
Yeah, so my treat is Ahmad Hardy, running back from Missouri. He's a player that I think we kind of needed in that 2027 draft class. We were talking about how good 2027 was because the quarterbacks look solid. The wide receivers are obviously elite with Jeremiah Smith at the top of it. But we were looking at that the running back class and talking about, we don't really know who's going to be the top guy yet. And Ahmad Hardy has established himself so far as the top guy right now in his sophomore season. I think he kind of came out of nowhere because obviously a player who had to transfer. UL Monroe is where he was as a freshman, comes out, gets to Missouri, ends up leading the nation for a good majority of the season in rushing yards. 937 yards and 11 touchdowns right now. They're only 8 games into the season. Like, that's over 100 yards and over 1 touchdown per game for you guys, folks. He's been dominating for Missouri, and I think he's a player that if we keep this up, I think Missouri might have a hard time keeping him going into next season, potentially, if he's playing this well. Maybe one of these bigger schools with more NIL money might come and try and give him a little bit of money to come play. But overall, a very solid player. I think right now most of us would consider him the RB1 in 2027 today. And if you would have asked us that, you know, just 6 months ago, maybe even a year to 6 months ago, we would have not had Ahmad Hardy's name at the top of this list.
No, not at all. I mean, right now he's pushing 1,000 yards on the season. So, I mean, he's right there on the cusp. And you love seeing it too. You know, you mentioned maybe some bigger schools that'll be coming in, but he's also performing in the SEC. It's not like he's playing in like at UL Monroe. You know, he's not playing in the Sun Belt. He's not playing in the MAC. Not even the ACC or the Big 12 or anything like that. Like, he's playing in the SEC. When you have players that do that in the SEC or the Big 10, for me, that's another level. That another level of confidence for me, knowing this is the closest we're going to get to NFL caliber defenses, closest we're going to get in college. So if you can do it here, there's a good or a better chance that you will translate to the next level than if you're playing those smaller school competition. You know, you look this past week, they had that big game against Vanderbilt that they were right in it, put up 97 yards on 20 carries. So very, very solid game there against South Carolina, who's been upsetting some teams. 22 carries, 138 yards, and a touchdown there. So it's not just, he did it against UMass or teams like that. He's doing it against some of the bigger boys as well. All right. I'm gonna get to my treat here. And this is somebody that I don't think we've talked about at all on any of our shows yet. And I wanted to make sure that I brought him in because he's been a treat, not just for, my pick, but I think he's been a treat for college football because Ole Miss is extremely relevant. And it's because of this backup quarterback that turned starter from Division II Ferris State. This is Trinidad Chambliss. And look, this kid has been awesome. You look at him in the passing game, he's got a 9-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. You look at him on the ground in just, 5 games that he's had? Maybe 6 games. He's got 376 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. And when you talk about somebody putting on the cape, this kid has put on the cape. I was going back and digging into some of his backstory, and it was the first day of like the portal and things like that, and the offensive coordinator's watching his tape, and then he brings in the quarterback's coach, and then they just kept bringing more guys into the room, and finally they're like, we got to get Lane Kiffin in here because this kid's about to go visit Temple. We need him to come visit us today because we think that he could be a starter for us. And so sooner rather than later, all of a sudden he's on a flight to Ole Miss, and the rest is history. And this kid, I'm just really impressed what he's done. Making that kind of jump is really, really, really difficult, but he's doing it with relative ease, coming in partway through the season and beating some of the best competition that there is in college football. So I don't know how much of him you guys have watched yet, but Andrew, we'll start with you. Any thoughts on Trinidad here?
Yeah, obviously been impressive seeing what he's been able to do. I think as far as full games and watching him so far, I haven't really dove too much into him at this point in time, but definitely a player that I think should be on people's radar, and definitely a player that I think is rising right now in college football.
Yeah, and I'm excited because of that Lane Kiffin system that he's in. We already saw what it can do for Jackson Dart. And on top of that, like you said, for college football, I look at I joke and, affectionately call them normies. Like my brother-in-law who just watches it for the love of the game. He's like, are you watching this Trinidad Chambliss kid? I'm like, who? And then you actually see him play. And again, I'll go back to your point about the transfer portal. We never would have saw this kid 10 years ago, and now that he's had the chance to develop in Division II and then come into another system and take another step, it's interesting to watch. And I'm curious because I don't think he's going to be a first round pick, but you think about the Tyler Huntleys and players like that may get picked up and could be an exciting backup that could be something else in the future. That's where I think Trinidad Chambliss is. Cause I'm going to be honest, he might be one where I'm picking up a rookie pick, a 4th round, if I have him, an extra one, and just stashing on my taxi to see what happens depending on where he goes. Same thing with him and I was
going to say Taylor Green,
fan, but Taylor Green. Yeah, Taylor Green. These guys here, they have a lot of tools. If they can go somewhere, sit behind Lamar and learn, and you might be a priority backup. Or the Philadelphia Eagles made a business out of developing backup quarterbacks and then shipping them elsewhere. I think that's the ideal spot for Trinidad James, or named a rapper, Trinidad Chambliss.
Fantastic. Definitely has Ole Miss playing well, extremely relevant. They beat LSU, which was a big surprise. This past week they beat OU. Just barely lost. I shouldn't say just barely lost by 10 to Georgia a couple weeks ago. So seeing them come back this week, beat OU the way that they did, and what he was able to do in that game, definitely has my my eyes open to this kid, and want to see what he does the rest of the way, because we've already started to see it in this kind of new era where guys that perform well in the college football playoffs and get hot at the right time, we're going to see their draft stock elevate. Before the college football playoffs, Will Howard was not getting drafted. And if he was, it was going to be 7th round. His stock
He's going to be a camp arm.
Exactly. And his stock rose a ton because he got hot and played well in the biggest games against the biggest competition in the country. We'll see what happens. He's showing that he can already do it in the SEC. So, and assuming that they stick and they're one of these top, 16 teams that get an opportunity to play, it could be very interesting. So curious to see and watch how all that plays out. All right, guys. Well, any other thoughts on any of these guys before we get out of here?
No, I almost put John Mateer here because of that Ole Miss game. Like that, I flirted with the idea of putting John Mateer as a trick because of that game. I just have to say that, like, as an honorable mention. So
I hear you.
I was gonna say I was debating between Hardy and I was debating between Jaden Maiava from USC as my treat.
Yeah. He's been playing really well. I did a video the other day, just kind of a random one-off, and he was one of the names that I brought up that is now starting to get some first-round buzz. So we'll see what happens there with him.
He's got some really good wide receivers, so that definitely helps for sure.
That definitely helps quite a bit. And then the kid from Cincinnati starting to get some love too. The Brendan Sorsby. So he's another name that I considered as my treat. He's been playing pretty well. And another guy that's a good athlete, can run around a little bit as well. So definitely a lot of interesting names. And look, I know that we're well over halfway into the college football regular season at this point, but there are still going to be names that pop up. There's still going to be guys that surprise, that are going to have good bowl games, good playoff series, and that are going to see their draft stock rise. So keep it locked in here. We're going to have episodes for you each and every Friday, talking about the college game, these draft prospects, and everything in between. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time.